The educator Dr. Maria Montessori once said,
"The child developing harmoniously and the adult improving himself at his side make a very exciting and attractive picture."
Welcome to Montessori Education with me, Jesse McCarthy, where we talk raising children and educating students while bettering ourselves right alongside them.
Has a child ever done something to annoy you? Now, that's probably a silly question. I mean, if you're an adult out there, you live some life, then the answer is, of course, yes. A child has probably annoyed you. I mean, all of us as human beings can be annoying at some point or another, and I think that's regardless of age. But so what I want to do today is tell you about a time that a child annoyed me, and then kind of what I got from the experience that helped me thereafter, really, with children of every age. So I was in probably like mid-20s. I was an elementary school teacher at a private school. It was more towards traditional than Montessori, but it definitely had a uniqueness that was pretty cool about it. And one of these things was that I would do these read-alouds with a small group of children. And I mean, they loved it. I loved it. It's just a lot of fun. It was usually connected to some period in history that we were studying. So we'd sit around in a circle, and each year the class could be anywhere from, it was a small private school, so maybe 8 kids to like tops 14. And we'd have this half an hour session, usually after lunch, when we would sit there and I would read it aloud a book, and ask them questions during it and so forth. And this one time I was reading a book. I was super engaged in it. The kids were super engaged. But as I'm reading, you look up, you're not in those old days, when you used to read and you just stare at the words as you're trying to read to somebody, which is not very good. You want to make eye contact, that type of stuff. So I'm looking around at the kids as I'm reading. They're like in it, and I'm in it myself, except for one child. He's kind of oblivious, looking off, seemingly to nowhere land. And I kind of found myself starting to get a little bit annoyed. It's like, this kid's not paying attention. So I kind of let it go because everybody else is engaged, and I think, he'll come to, but he doesn't. In fact, it seems like he's getting more and more mesmerized by looking off into nowhere land, and this is my early 20s or mid 20s. These things could still really emotionally get me worked up. And I don't know if some of you can relate out there, if you really wanted a child to be doing something that you want him to be doing, or that little girl over there, you should be doing this. And you're starting to get worked up because they're not doing what you want them to do. Okay. And this could be from a toddler all the way up to, well into teenage years. It's like, what do I want them to be doing? And they're not doing it. It can really work us up inside. At least definitely me at that time, and every now and again over the years. So I'm feeling this, it's building in me, and then I see another child start to look off, and I realize, well, I don't realize anything yet. I'm just kind of like, what is going on? And then I see another child goes, look, and what is it? On the wall is this tiny little spider. And for me as an adult, I've been to many different places, seen many different spiders. It was like one of those daddy long-legged things, or something that was not very entertaining for me as an adult. So I'm thinking, dude, what are you guys doing looking at a spider? Like, we're reading this exciting story. I mean, at least that's what's going on in my head. But these children were like riveted to this thing. So inside at this point, I'm about to be like, guys, yes, it's a spider. Let's get back to the story. I don't know what was going on at that moment inside. I mean, sometimes we all get into these moods when we want them to be doing what we want them to be doing. But interestingly, I felt that coming up, and I felt myself getting a little worked up, but I had also been reading a lot of Maria Montessori's works at the time. And one of the things that kept sticking with me was like, calm down, Jesse, chill out for a moment and observe. Look a little bit more closely at what's going on. Don't get so, worked up in what you think the child's trying to do to you, or he's trying to work you up, or, he doesn't care about your work. And try to stop focusing so much on it's all about me in this moment, which I think, at that point in my life, I had a lot of that me. I've got to be the guy on the stage, and start looking a little bit more closely. So what I did was I just chilled out for a moment and thought to myself, let me look at their faces. Let me see what's going on with them. And you could just tell it was just this excitement. And again, it wasn't like this story was boring that I was saying. Like, they were really super engaged in that before. Read aloud was like one of the best times of the day. However, this spider was curious. It was just this exciting moment to look at, well, what's going on with it? It's crawling up the wall. You could just see it in their eyes. And I allowed myself to get back into that moment with them. And really to get back into that moment of me as kind of little Jesse, seeing a spider walking on the wall. It's kind of cool. And what's up with that spider? Like, let me look a little closer. So as I did that, I go, instead of being like, guys, stop focusing on that. Let's get back to the story. My whole mindset kind of shifted. I go, wow, look at that. That's a spider. Let me see too. And I moved a little bit closer to it. And we kind of all looked at it together as a group. And there were a couple kids that didn't care. They don't care about spiders. But most of us were very fascinated by it. So I was kind of encouraging this curiosity. Yes, it was interrupting our story, and this is story time. Read aloud is now. But who cares? We've got to be able to be flexible. I know sometimes we can get in this proper classroom mode where we can't be flexible. So it was such a cool experience to do that. And then a colleague of mine, he's actually Mystery Doug. I don't know how many kids out there know about Mystery Doug, but he was a good friend and colleague of mine. But he's the science teacher next door. So I know that I can tell these kids, I don't know nothing about spiders, to be direct with you guys. But I know that this guy, Doug, he's the man. He knows so much about so many different things in science, particularly little animals and creatures. I thought, hey guys, you know what we'll do afterwards if you're really curious? We can talk to Doug about this, or Mr. Peltz at the time, I think we were calling him. And a couple of them, they're curious about that. So that led to something about spiders. So now this kind of curiosity turns into something where a couple children might keep going with it and want to learn more about the world of spiders. So you can see that's the kind of Montessori way where you feed into that curiosity. You help that curiosity, you guide it. Because we could have just got lost on spiders and it could have just been like, oh, spiders, they're cool. But now they've got an outlet to learn a little bit more about spiders. And for the rest of them who didn't care, they don't have to focus on spiders. We're not going to do a big lesson on them and so forth. And what's really cool about this is what happened afterwards. So of course, I got into it. I was like, oh, wow, let's look at this spider. And I was excited. But it must have been maybe a minute or two afterwards. You go, okay, I'm actually interested in getting back into the book. If you guys want to come back, you come on through. And we just turned back and everyone just got back into the book. It was like the most natural experience, one of the most natural experiences of my teaching career. And I think I had a lot more throughout the years, but this one just sticks with me because it really was in the moment, one of those mindset shifts and my ability to kind of control the immediate emotional urge to react in a way that's not really following the child, not really aiding the child, and ultimately not really aiding myself. Because I'm kind of, giving in to some emotions that maybe aren't that great. I should be questioning those things. So it was a really cool thing. So I'd like to say that it was one of those proud moments in my life. And it was like, I consider it kind of the Montessori Spider experience for me. And I hope it's somewhat of a meaningful story to you. I know this is a super short podcast episode. That's really all I have for you. I wanted to just get that story out. It was kind of, it's been with me for years, and I thought, let me share it with the audience and see if it resonates with them. So good talking tonight. It's nighttime here when I'm recording this. And I wanted to say, please continue to leave reviews and comments and so forth. So I'm really appreciating them. With that in mind, a quick shout out to a mother, what's her name? Michelle Sheed, who had some kind things to say on Apple Podcasts. A father and Marine actually named Jeremiah who reached out to me, and a head of school named Christina who left a really wonderful message on Apple Podcasts, I think. I appreciate that, Christina. And to everyone out there, I hope you have a good night or day or morning, whatever time it is out where you're at, and we'll talk next time. Adios.